And welcome everybody. Good morning to all those folks joining us from the West, and good afternoon to everyone in Ontario and points east. Thanks for taking the time from your what we know are very busy schedules to talk about the actual energy performance of Ontario universities and colleges. We know that we have institutions joining us from across the country, so hopefully you'll find the stories coming out of Ontario useful and helpful, and we'll look forward at some point to gathering your data and kind of joining you in the story. We always begin by thanking Enbridge Gas, our sponsor and supporter of all the work that Climate Challenge Network is doing in Ontario. And I know for, again, the Ontario colleges and universities, strong supporter of all the work that you're trying to do within your individual facilities. So Enbridge, as always, thank you. Next slide, please. And now the announcement that everybody always ignores. So, but please do follow this one. So the Q&A option, you'll find it on your dashboard. The Q&A option is important to us because it brings you into the conversation. So we will either during the session or afterwards respond to all the questions and comments that you care to make over the course of this. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience in the audience today. We by no means pretend to know everything about all of this, and we gain a lot from your providing comments as we go through and ask your questions. So if we can respond to them during the session, we will. Otherwise, part of the record, as well as the recording of this. And Natalie, just checking, is the recording underway?
Yes, we are recording.
Perfect. So as well as the recording, the Q&A document is part of the record of the whole event. It's part of the collective learning that we're going through, and it will be posted anonymously on our website. The questions, the answers will be there, but not who asked them. So please, anytime you've got something to contribute to the conversation, use the Q&A. Use the chat only if you're having trouble with technology, and we've got a couple of other points through here where it's better to use the chat because it's not part of the proceeding. So Q&A it is. Next slide, please. As with all Climate Challenge Network events, we begin with a land acknowledgement, which North America-wide is to acknowledge respectfully the ancestral and unceded territory of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people that we now share these lands with. We're meeting on a virtual platform today. I'm speaking from Toronto, which is the traditional homes of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas of the Credit River. And as you may know, Toronto is governed by the treaty with the Mississaugas of the Credit River. So wherever you're from, there are First Nations, in some cases Inuit and Métis communities in your areas too. And on behalf of all of you, we speak to that and hope that the work that we're all doing today will contribute meaningfully to the common responsibility we all have as stewards of the environment. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about Climate Challenge Network. It's a nonprofit organization with a North American mandate that runs programs for particular building types. You can see on the right-hand side, we have a program with hospitals across North America, with municipalities, with K-12 schools. And our most recent program is with higher education facilities, the Post-Secondary Climate Challenge. This webinar today is on behalf of the Post-Secondary Climate Challenge. All of our programs follow the same format. They're designed to facilitate collaboration. We've just simply got too much to do around energy and climate for everybody to reinvent the wheel. It's time to work together. Our programs are all data-driven. We rely upon utility data to direct us, to find good practice, to share it with others. And our only mandate is around deep emissions reductions in big buildings. So that's all the Climate Challenge Network does. There are many environmental organizations out there that do good work. We have narrowed our focus to simply got to reduce emissions, and we've got to do it fairly quickly. The program also conducts primary research, and you'll find on our website interesting work that we're doing together with member institutions to fill in knowledge gaps as we move along. So that's our host. That's Climate Challenge Network. Next slide, please. So the Post-Secondary Climate Challenge Network is our most recent program. We began the program in 2021. Once again, it's directed by data and by the interests and needs of our members. I'll talk some more at that at the end of the webinar. And as with everything else, it's all about deep reductions in energy, utility costs, and greenhouse gas emissions. We all get together to share strategies, to track energy use, to talk to each other, to network, and as is today, to recognize high performance results. So that's what Post-Secondary Climate Challenge Network is all about. And you can see our website address at the end. Please visit us anytime. There's always something interesting going on. Next slide, please. And let me run through the three questions we wanted to address today. The why, as many of you who've heard our events before could know, the why I could talk about for the whole session. These are serious times in terms of climate change and the need for climate action. Many of the tools that governments think they had are not functioning particularly well, and it comes down to all of us to contribute our share towards greenhouse gas emissions reductions. And we're going to talk a lot about this today. But the why is this is an urgent, it is a crisis, and we need to attend to it seriously. Then the meat of the webinar is energy trends. Are we, within Ontario institutions, are we actually making progress? And which are the top 10 most energy efficient colleges and universities for the 2023 reporting year? The data we use comes from Ontario government's broader public sector reporting for people in other jurisdictions. What Ontario is doing with mandatory reporting has been a game changer in terms of being able to advance this agenda. So the why is, why does this matter and how are we doing? The what is not that complicated. There's nobody on this call that doesn't understand. And we got the top 5 measures. You can move these things around if you wish to, but these 5 essentially are the headings. Every one of your plans, every one of your strategies is built around these measures. And I say technically, physics-wise, this is not complicated. The how is the hard part. How do you actually get things done? So working together, we want to talk about the roles of the universities and colleges. We know the OAPA conference was I think a week ago, and that is a wonderful forum. As if you were at the last meeting in Hamilton, the previous meeting of the Energy Committee in Hamilton, we were there discussing this information with them. But we have a lot of industry players on this call, and you're vital partners. No colleges and universities have all the resources they need to get things done. They need your help. And I hope today will give some insight into the vital role that you'll be playing. And the third, if you like, side of the triangle is governments and utility companies, public policy, regulations, utility company programs, utility company incentives. These things are moving really fast. We want to report a bit on those today, but wherever you are in the country, increasingly your governments and utilities are becoming more active, if you'd like, more generous, because we have a problem and we have to solve it together, and it takes money. We then are delighted to welcome Confederation College with us today to share their story. So that's part of a panel discussion, but you're all part of that discussion as well. So the audience Q&A kind of fits into that. And during that conversation in the second half of the webinar, we'll be inviting comments from the floor to elaborate upon, to add your own experiences to all of that. And we plan to finish off with an audience poll. This is kind of fun to watch it take shape, but we really want to understand from everybody on this call today, who we see as the leaders, the keen people who care a lot about this. What are your intentions? What's getting in the way? And essentially, where can we collectively help? Where can we all kind of step in and supplement resources, help to get things done? So that's our agenda. Next slide, please. And looking at the colleges and universities that are part of this report and part of this conversation today, there are a total of 40 that appear within Ontario's broader public sector mandatory reporting database. That's by no means all of the colleges and universities in Ontario. There are, as you can see highlighted, a total of 6 where we had issues with the data either in 2022 or in 2023. So some of you appear in some reports, but not in others. And if you see yourself on that list, we know some of these institutions are on this webinar. Please do get in touch with us after this, and let's fill in the data gaps and make you part of the reporting for 2025. We'll be talking about this a bit more, that the reporting this year is anonymous. In prior years, we just were reporting on the colleges, and they were open to sharing their data and who they are, and looking at the ones at the top and the ones at the bottom of the charts. We don't have that agreement yet with the universities, so we've reverted to being anonymous. However, every one of you who's registered for this webinar today, you should have received a code from us on it's either University 12345 or College 12345. If you don't have that code right now, this is one place you can use the chat. Send a note to Natalie on the chat saying, I'm this college or this university, please send me my code. Then you can follow the bouncing ball over the course of this conference and identify yourself on where you are on those charts. So I hope that makes sense. And again, thanks to all of these institutions for taking the time to comply with the provincial regulations around this. And again, I'll repeat, every year this list gets significantly longer. Institutions, colleges, universities outside of Ontario, and those in Ontario not mentioned here, we would be thrilled to get your data and include you in the reporting for next year. Next slide, please. So the why, and I'll be watching Natalie's face on this, because I say once I get started on this, it has a way of taking some time, because there's so much to say. So I'm going to practice self-discipline, but let's go to the next slide, please. Those of you who are familiar with our work have seen a mixture of graphics like these here. 2030 we see as a critical year. It's our first serious global emissions reduction targets. Forest fires you see on the left, and reservoirs, both of these are from BC. Reservoirs shrinking so fast. All of these just remind us that this is a big deal. So it's called here the defining issue of our times, as it is, and it's measurable in terms of financial losses, and it's measurable in terms of human lives, and it's useful to track it, and we do that all the time to remind ourselves that where pandemics are terrible things and wars are terrible things, they ultimately do end. The climate crisis is not going to end. It's only a question of how bad it's going to become and how much disruption it's going to cause across all sectors, including the post-secondary institutions, where you're both developing the knowledge and the expertise and the talent of the next generation of practitioners at the same time as being a significant contributor to pollution. So we're all in this together. We're on both sides of that equation, but defining issue of our times, it's catastrophic ramifications sounds like hyperbole until you try to do the math and find out it really isn't. The damage is already real. Um, Climate change today is killing more people every year than COVID, and by 2050, we'll have killed more than 5 times as many people as COVID killed. Like these are a big deal. These are big numbers. The financial damage, you already see it in your insurance costs. Mine have gone up 150% in 3 years, and I live in a seventh floor condominium. Some of you can't even get insurance on property anymore. You'll see food prices going up because of worldwide drought, not because of gouging supermarkets, which is another political nonsense that works its way through. We're going to have higher food prices simply because we have less land to produce food. You'll see it in terms of smoke days. We're hearing the first of this very early this season. We know about extreme weather events. And if you're like us, you track the biggest concern of all, which is migration, when a large part of the southern hemisphere becomes uninhabitable, where there's no way of making a living, where there's no food, there's no water. We haven't seen anything yet in terms of migration as people decide that they would rather come and live here. And the likely connection to all of that is wars that we haven't seen in such a long time, because nations are going to be competing for increasingly scarce resources. Defining issue of our times, catastrophic ramifications. We're not on the right trajectory, despite everything. Emissions due to buildings are supposed to come down by 41% from 2019 to 2030. Emissions due to buildings are still going up, and nobody quite wants to talk about it. We keep putting in more and more aggressive targets and ignore the fact that we're going in the wrong direction. And the reality, government can't fix this for us. Like government have very limited tools that they can use to help. They've got taxes, they've got grants, they've got codes, they've got standards. But at the end of the day, it comes down to every one of us. And I know every college and university on this call today is here because you believe this and you care about this. And there's a fair share. We get asked a lot these days about what's my fair share? Like, what should my contribution to emissions reduction be? And hopefully today will give you some insight into what that looks like. But it's down to us to get this done. And thank you for being here today to be part of that conversation. Next slide, please. So let's get to the numbers, because that's what these reports, this is the 4th year that we've done this. That's what these reports are all about, and we track things over time. Next slide, please. And here are our famous tornado diagrams. And these things really matter. The red is individual reportees on this year's from this year's analysis that are actually increased energy in 2023 versus 2022 after adjusting for weather, after adjusting for any changes in square footage. The reds are increases, the greens are savings, and the bad news on this chart is across the participating institutions, there are way more reds than greens, and overall, the sector, again, having adjusted for weather and other variables, we're up by 21,000. Our emissions have gone up by 21,000 tons. And we have these conversations and people ask about enrollment. It did increase across the college sector. It declined a little bit across the university sector. We have seen enough and spoken to enough people to know that the biggest part of these reds are operations, maintenance, equipment deterioration, and the greens are due to cost-effective programming. In most cases, that can make a big difference, can make it now. We just have to get on with it. That's what today's all about. But this reinforces the previous slide. We're going in the wrong direction right now, and we all have a role to play to fill it. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to find their university or college code on this by now. You know who you are, and we hope that this will be sobering. If you're in the greens, God bless you, and we look forward to following up with you and further on, if you're in the reds, there's work to be done, and it's not waiting. The planet's running out of patience with us, and it doesn't care about our troubles. It doesn't care about the challenges and international students and the loss of funding, the budget pressures. The planet doesn't care about those things. It cares about we got to stop emitting as much as we do. We got to take action. We got to take it now. Next slide, please. It's helpful. So the first column here with the gray shading, this is 23 versus 22. It's the same numbers as you just saw a moment ago. And way over on the right-hand side, they're 2019 versus 2018. Again, we track this every year. You can see back in the day, in those days, 2019, before COVID, we were actually showing some pretty positive results. Savings in natural gas of 12%, savings in electricity 0.6%, 7,500 tons of emissions reductions. Then came COVID in 2020, a lot shut down. So you can see a lot of savings, but not the kind of savings we need to make. We need to make structural permanent reductions. 21 versus 2020. You can see the electricity bounced up. Gas, again, made some savings. This is coming out of COVID. In 23 versus 22, again, there's some enrollment changes over the years, and you've all got a story. There's a dozen stories on the previous chart, but we're up in electricity, we're up in natural gas, we're up in emissions, and frankly, we're in trouble, and we need to get moving. Need to get moving now. So the trends are sobering. Should be, and I know are for all of us, because otherwise you wouldn't be on this call today. Next slide, please. So that's where we're coming from. That's the track record over the past several years. Let's step into, and that's one of the things post-secondary climate challenge tracks. Are we, what direction are we trending in? What's the trajectory right now? But the other is, which are the most efficient, the lowest EUI, having adjusted for variables that we're aware of. You'll find this white paper. We haven't had a reason to update it since November 2022. I personally love getting feedback on this. So if you read this and there's something you're not sure about or you don't think is right, please get back to us. The methodology is always up for evolution, for improvement, but we're pretty comfortable it's telling the right story, as it were. But it's all about setting energy targets. It's all about saying, if we look at all the data, what are the most efficient colleges and universities? What is their EUI? It's easy to adjust for area. It's easy to adjust for weather, and the whole methodology around space types. So you may have more residences or more recreational or more research facilities. All of the assumptions, all of the metrics we're using are in this white paper. And this is all built around the idea of this is how much energy we use. If we could all get to a normalized top quartile level, just top quartile, not bleeding edge, not cutting edge, not spending millions of dollars. If we just get to the top quartile, how much could we save? And the numbers are quite remarkable. And I'll say this a few times, most of those savings are simply running what we already have more efficiently. And again, we've got more and more examples of institutions that are doing this. And that is the big hope of everybody else following suit. Next slide, please. So the starting point is energy use per square foot. So every one of these, again, you can find yourself on this chart: college 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, university 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The green is thermal energy, which in Ontario is where most of the emissions are. The blue is electricity use. You can see a couple of cogeneration sites in there, where the blue is really, really short and the green is really, really long. And those have their own opportunities and their own challenges. But you can see the range of electricity use per square foot and thermal energy use per square foot, where the bigger variable by far is natural gas. In most cases, there's some other fuel sources within there, but primarily natural gas. That's where most of the emissions are, and that's where most of the opportunity is. So when you find your number in there, look at your number in the green bar and compare it with some of those closer to the top. Interestingly, we've looked at this is not weather normalized, this chart, the next one is. We look at this Northern Ontario facilities, including Confederation College, we'll be talking to later, are pretty evenly distributed across here. So weather is not the dominant factor here. There are things that we don't yet understand that we want to learn, especially about the universities that are newer to this reporting. But this is the starting point. This range of energy use intensity for organizations doing similar things is dramatic, and that's where the opportunity lies. So imagine all of the ones on the right-hand side of the top quartile line. That's the red dotted line in the middle. Imagine all of those made their way just to the top quartile. That's the premise of post-secondary climate challenge, that we can and should be able to do this. Next slide, please. This is what we end up. So there's 36 institutions that made its way through here. Some of the less efficient ones at the bottom there have savings potential in excess of 50% of their current energy use by running what they've got better. Now, I'm sure there's variations on a theme, and love to hear from more and more of you so we can make any other necessary adjustments. But the numbers are very big. There's $118 million a year, again, by getting everyone to the top quartile. $118 million a year of utility cost savings, 284,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. So as a sector, just for the group reporting in this year's report, this is the opportunity. This is the potential. And this is what drives us. This is what keeps us in the program. And this is all the conversations we have with the colleges and universities that are generous enough to work with us and share their expertise and their resources. For our industry players on this call, this is where these institutions need help. So this is the task at hand, as it were. This is the opportunity. Next slide, please. So if it's a virtual meeting, if this was a workshop, we actually bring in drummers and drums, and this is a kind of a drum roll to say these are our top performers for this year's report. So number one is still Conestoga College. So God bless you, Conestoga College. We profiled your work, I think, 2 years ago, and you're still number one, having made the adjustments that you'll see in that white paper report for space types and weather and everything else. Cambridge moved up 3 places. Humber College stays at number 3. It's the biggest of the institutions in the top group. And I think bigger facilities do have bigger challenges in some ways. Then Northern's first time on the list, Canada, you can read the rest of themselves. But here are, in our view, our leaders. These are the ones we want to spend more time talking to, understand, document, provide case studies, share best practices with everybody involved. Next slide, please. So that's where we're coming from. That's where we're at. And if there's 2 messages we leave today, one is that technically what needs to be done is not complicated. It's been done before. It's just doing what we already know how to do. So in terms of the what, this is all we have to offer. Next slide, please. Get your building automation system right. You cannot manage large campuses, let alone multiple campuses, without technology. And technology, building automation systems are technology. Get it up to date, bring it up to date, keep it up to date, make sure people are trained, make sure it's calibrated. We need building automation to transition to the low carbon future. Existing building commissioning is the biggest contributor to savings. It's the most important piece that we work with. Just getting things working right. It's amazing how much savings you'll make just by shutting stuff off when you don't need it. 24/7 operation kills. It's the biggest single saver across all building sectors. Outside air in a cold climate like ours is the biggest driver of natural gas consumption, and most facilities are using too much. And smart controls. Don't use the controls the way they were originally set up. There's always a smarter way of running it. And I know we're going to hear from Ryan later on how Confederation is tackling these things. The one thing almost no institutions are doing is properly testing their HVAC systems, both particularly the air systems, but the hydronic systems. When you test them, the contractor is going to find all kinds of things that are leaking and losing and crazy things with static pressure losses because of bad connections, dampers which are stuck. So refurbishment is part of that and rebalancing to today's requirements. Biggest, again, along with this commissioning idea of getting things working properly, getting airflows and hydronic flow rates right is key. To enable those things, there's so many energy efficiency retrofits that are highly cost effective and supported by our friends at the utility companies. If you're not planning VFDs, all of your big prime movers, pumps, fans, over time need to have variable frequency drives. Your constant volume systems over time, as you renovate, we're going to hear from Confederation more of this, you'll be converting them to variable flow as part of your renovations, your new construction. Boiler plants are going to be with us for at least the next 15 years in our estimation, so we're going to make them run as efficiently as possible. And lighting retrofits are kind of the low-hanging fruit. They're not always done very well, but lighting retrofits are a big deal. You're going to have to do them. The kind of products you're using right now won't be available anymore. And along with those four buckets, if you like, of activity around energy efficiency, you've got to be planning for decarbonization. Like 20 years from now, your plant and systems are going to look profoundly different than they are right now. Peak demand reduction is critical, not just peak heating demand, but peak cooling demand, because the climate's going to get hotter, and peak electrical demand because we're going to struggle with grid capacity. So peak demand reduction matters. And there's key measures that whenever you're doing a renovation, you've got to build those things in. You see them there. I'm not going to read them out to you. More importantly, your capital planning should always be looking through the low carbon lens at the projects you have coming up. There's always a better low carbon alternative to like for like replacements. And these are things that you need to track as you're going through. And Ryan and Robin, I hope you're looking at these things because we'll come back to these when we have the panel conversation in a little while. Next slide, please. So if the what is technically straightforward, if sometimes difficult, the how, working together within institutions and between institutions and between institutions, governments, and industry, this we believe is the great hope. This is how we turn the corner. This is how we get the upward spiral instead of the downward spiral, is by collaboration. Again, there's too much to be done. The timelines are too short for everybody to be reinventing their own wheels. We've got to be talking to each other, sharing, and so on. So let's run quickly through the key elements of the how. And again, I'm going to revert to those with Robin in the conversation later. So those of you on this call, if you were in the six with data issues, please work with contact Natalie after this, and we'll get the data cleaned up and we'll add you to the report. Again, it's all anonymous right now, but you then have the information of where you rank and what you can save. And we suggest today every institution on this call should be committing to either the targets that the post-secondary climate challenge is setting for you. Every one of you has a number of what that percentage reduction, that was on the chart I showed previously, or a more aggressive one if you're feeling bolder than that. But as a minimum, let's get to the targets we've given you by 2030. For those of you from other provinces, and no, I don't think we have any American registrants, but we have in the past. Send us your data and we'll run those numbers for you. With industry, we have one of our friends on this call that actually invited a university to come to this call as a starting point of their conversation. Reach out, provide the help, provide the resources, help colleges and universities because they're resource limited. They need help. And governments and utility companies, all of you have heard this from us before. We need to be looking at empirical data to set achievable savings potential. We need to be using data to inform policy and program design. And above all, we should all be encouraging transparency. We're all in this together. We should be sharing our information, sharing our ideas, and taking accountability as we work towards targets. Next slide, please. Across the country and across North America, every jurisdiction has new programs. They're becoming more and more intelligent and thoughtful and frankly generous. Vicky Gagnon is on this call. Contact her to talk about Save on Energy. Enbridge Gas is on this call. Contact Zoya to talk about. So these Enbridge's programs are currently being redesigned, and the targets are becoming more ambitious, and they're there to help. That's their function. They're there to help. So use your utility companies. They're an important part of the financial equation. Next slide, please. And this is this is produced by one of my colleagues here. This is my favorite kind of ladder to success. The idea that the most energy efficient institutions are not the ones with the newest facilities or the best technology. They're the ones who are the best organized. And organization and governance and management practices are the differentiator. And again, we'll hear about that more in a moment. So organizational alignment, all the way from the board level and executive level, right the way through to reporting systems and staff training programs, all of that. Organizational alignment is critical. This is not the facilities department's job. Everybody is involved in moving to that low carbon future. Everybody has to be supportive. Everybody has a part to play. Most organizations, especially public sector organizations, frankly lack capacity to get things done. And it's crazy. There's institutions in all sectors that can save $2 million a year but aren't willing to hire an energy manager. If you talk to Vicky, ISO has just introduced in Ontario a new energy manager program for institutions, and would be delighted to talk about helping fund a role within your organization there. But you need people to get things done. You need clarity around roles and responsibilities and KPIs. Accountability matters here. This is not optional. This is something we have to achieve and can't. You've got external players like service contractors that can help you. And then everybody should have a plan. We hope you have a 2030 plan because that's such a key target. But the 2030 plan is a sum of individual plans. You need one plan for every year, clearly saying what you plan to accomplish in that year and holding yourself accountable to it. And the best organizations have the board expecting to hear reporting every year on how that plan is progressing. This is an organizational issue, not a facilities department issue. The best organizations achieve the best outcomes. Next slide, please. So we're kind of on time. We're 4 minutes behind. Robin, I apologize for that. But let's introduce our friends with Confederation College who don't for a moment pretend to have got this right. This is not somebody they've reached the promised land and they're coming back to tell the rest of us how it's done. They're fellow travelers. We're all on the same journey together. We have a long way to go. We talked earlier about uncertainty. Technology is going to change over these times, but we can't wait for it and hope and cross our fingers. Politics changes all the time. Economics change all the time. Managing through uncertainty is part of it. So let's understand we're all fellow travelers. We just pick out somebody close to the top of our charts every year and let's talk about it. But we do really want everybody else on this call to contribute to the Q&A as we work our way through this. But here's Confederation College. They're number 11 on this chart. You can see that their thermal energy is particularly good because for whatever reason, we're going to chat to the Ministry of Energy. They report their biomass consumption, which is about 25% of their total fuel consumption, but it doesn't show up in the chart. So in fact, Sorry, Ryan, but you're about one place lower on this, but it doesn't change the story. Fellow travelers on the way up the chart. That's what we should see ourselves all as. But a fair amount of electric heat. Again, as you know, Confederation's in Thunder Bay. It's a cold climate. So all of this works its way through. So ranking number 11, still on the journey. Next slide, please. This is what caught our attention more at the top of the savings charts. So in terms of electricity, in the green. In terms of natural gas, in the green. And in terms of total energy and emissions, in the green. So this, again, caught our attention, and we're just very grateful that Robin and Ryan were able to find the time, not just to take part today, but also to have the conversations leading up to this to figure out where we're going. So that's kind of the credentials, and the rest of the story is about to be told. And can we just, next slide, please? So Robin, Director of Facilities, Ryan, that's a great title, Energy and Carbon Manager. That's and we're just providing general direction for this conversation, which is most of the rest of the webinar. And Ryan, if I may, I want to start with you with, let's talk about, in quotes, the easy part, the technical part, what needs to be done. So you see the savings, electricity and natural gas from in 23 compared to 22. What were you doing right?
Yeah, there's kind of three things I'd like to highlight. The first one, maybe a little bit unique to Confederation College, is we have a biomass boiler plant, meaning we burn wood chips to help offset the natural gas that we use. We have a natural gas boiler plant as well. Starting in 2021, the biomass boiler plant became our primary heating source, and the natural gas boilers are there to supplement it. So in 2021, our natural gas reduction, because of using biomass, we reduced our natural gas by 120,000 cubic meters of natural gas in that 1 year. It's equivalent to about 228 tons of carbon reduction. And just to kind of like give you a ballpark of what that would be, it's about 50 passenger vehicles a year being removed in the amount of emissions reduced running our biomass instead. So that was first implemented in 2021. Didn't really contribute too much to our 2023 savings that we were still successful with. But one thing that we did is optimize that biomass use, adjusting parameters to get the biomass boilers to run even more clean and effectively, relying less on natural gas boilers. We were able to run the biomass boilers longer, working out some of the maintenance issues behind them. So that was kind of one major thing that we've worked on, and we're still not fully optimized, but we're getting better each year with our biomass plant. The next one is retro commissioning, and or existing building commissioning, another way to call it. As Ian mentioned, and for those that might not have heard the term retro commissioning, it's basically taking what you got. You're not adding new equipment to it, but you're using what you got and you're optimizing that. Kind of the great thing about this is, if you have expertise in-house, you can achieve all these savings with no additional capital injected. So one of the things I've been doing, I started at the college in 2022, is I constantly go through our BAS and look for inefficiencies in it and ways I could optimize it, adjusting different parameters, set points, and schedules. Ian highlighted this too earlier, kind of like one of the best ways to save energy is turning things off. If things aren't needed, like for example, if you're running an air handler overnight when no one's in the building, that's just a waste of energy. So optimizing schedules, that's a very low hanging fruit that anyone can do and get great savings. A couple other things that are done is looking at different temperatures and set points that we're delivering controlling spaces to. Has big impact, again, just lowering the amount of energy just by keeping buildings still comfortable, but maybe not overcooling or overheating to achieve that. Another big one is, and Ian highlighted this as well, is outdoor air. One thing I noticed going through our BAS system is our outdoor air dampers were bringing in way too much outdoor air. Our return air carbon dioxide levels was just slightly above what the outdoor is, meaning our building indoor air quality was almost as good as the outdoor air. And I think that's one of the biggest reductions we had, both gas and electricity reduction, because we do have quite a bit of electric heat on campus as well. So there are just kind of a retro commission, I think, is one of the biggest things that we did to achieve our 2023 savings. And it's something that we're still continuing to work on. I look at our control system almost every day and looking for ways to optimize it. We do have a very old control system here, so it's kind of made it a bit of a challenge where we're not able to make actual programming changes. So there's lots of overrides and stuff, daily overrides, turning things on in the morning, turning them off. And it got to the point where we realized that we've made great savings so far, but in order to take this to the next level, to hit our 2030, 2040 goals, we're actually completely replacing our building automation system across campus. We started phase 1 so far, which is converting our main powerhouse to a new control system. That's where our boilers, chillers, biomass plant is. And we're going to be extending that BAS upgrade right across campus in the next few years. And we expect the savings to that to basically, that's going to be one of the main driving factors to get us to our 2020-30 goals.
I got a couple of questions for you, Ryan, but let me also invite, again, everybody in the audience. You know, we only do this once a year. Take the time to get to the meat of with Ryan's work. You know, what were the challenges? None of this is after the fact. It always looks easy, right? It's kind of tough at the time. So think about your own questions, and I'll come back to you in a moment. Ryan, the biomass is intriguing, right? So low carbon fuel sources are hard to come by. How and where do you think biomass is practical? I can't imagine TMU having a truckload of wood chips and a whole bunch of ash coming out the other end. Which institution should be thinking about biomass? What are the preconditions, and what kind of issues are they going to face?
Being in Thunder Bay, being in the Northwest, I think we're like a prime candidate for it. There's lots of forestry industry in our location and a lot of wood waste because of that. I really think that other like First Nation communities, especially ones that have their own sawmills that are producing their own wood waste, that's a fuel source they can use. But it doesn't need to just be in the north. As long as you have a source of wood chips, you can use. Like part of our chips, like we have a service provider that delivers chips to us, and they, chip full slabs to produce the chips. But we also have a partnership with our local utility provider. And when they're doing line trimmings and stuff to clear hydro lines, they actually donate those wood trimmings back to us. And then they go through our service provider, they chip that, screen it, and then provide it to us. So there's opportunities there, especially when you're using a waste product that would go in, emit carbon by just biodegrading if it was at a landfill, and use it to produce heat is kind of like a win-win situation there.
And operationally, as I understand it, the wood chips have to come in and then the ash has to go out. What does that look like? How often does that happen? Can you picture that happening in a more urban setting?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, our system is pretty much automated except for the ash removal. When we get chips delivered by truck, they come in and they fill a chip bunker. That bunker has enough chips to store us for a full week, and this is in peak heating season in the middle of winter. And once our chip bunker's full, the system runs by itself. It's an automatic feed system that takes those chips and delivers them right into the boilers. And then ash is removed from the boilers, but just fill into a bin right now. And that's kind of the only manual process that we need to do is when those bins get full, we come over, we switch them out to a full bin. And then right now the ash is a waste product for us. But interesting enough is one of the researchers here at the college is looking at ways to pelletize the ash so it's easier to transport. Ash is very dusty and kind of hard to work with, but pelletize it and then use it as a fertilizer. So we're doing different trials around campus, looking to use this as a fertilizer for growing different trees and things on campus. So it's kind of another kind of win-win where you have a waste product that we're using to benefit something else.
That's helpful. Natalie, any questions coming from the audience?
Not yet, Ian.
Hey, missed opportunity, everybody. I got one more question for you that that others might ask. With your existing building commissioning, were you able to take advantage of any incentive programs that are available in Ontario?
Yes, we did receive an incentive through Enbridge, through their BAS controls upgrade incentive.
Okay, nothing from
So as specifically for retrofit or retro commissioning, no, because it was zero cost to us. I did everything all in-house ourselves, so we didn't have to pay a consultant for the actual retro commission part of it.
Okay, interesting. The
But as far as upgrading our BES, there is incentives available through both Save on Energy and Enbridge, and we've taken advantage of the Enbridge for our first phase.
perfect, and it goes without saying they're very available and very helpful.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Good, good.
If I could just
Well,
mention kind of one more kind of aspect
yeah.
that we've like implemented to get to our 2023 savings, and we continue to implement through all of our projects, is whenever we're doing anything from a facilities lens, whether it be upgrading equipment that is due for renewal or any type of capital project, we're always keeping energy efficiency in mind. So for example, we had a roof that was leaking and the membrane needed to be replaced, but rather than just replacing it, the membrane itself, and maybe possibly keeping the insulation, we actually removed everything, built up the parapets, and brought up the insulation to an R60 level. It was previously only at R30. So kind of, and there's only a small incremental cost to do that when you're already completing an upgrade for other means like maintenance. Another example is we had condensing units that had failed or at the end of life. And again, rather than replacing it with like for like, we went to high efficiency units that had variable speed compressors and are able to save energy that way. Another thing, kind of just thinking in the future, we had one small interior fit up project where ductwork had to get modified, diffusers moved around, things like that. And the system itself, the air handling system, was just a constant air volume system right now. But we know in the future, and again, what we've done so far, as you mentioned, is just the first steps. We still have a lot more to go. And we know in the future, we're going to be converting that system to a variable air volume system, adding drives on the supply fans, return fans, and things like that. So in order to set us up for this, we're not ready to convert yet, but all those ductwork modifications that we made, we installed variable air volume terminal boxes in the ductwork right now. And they're just set to an open position, so they're not acting as variable air volume now. But when we do get to that stage and we're able to convert the fans to variable air volume in the future, then the system's there, and it costs a lot less to do it now than rather than disturb the people in the area and make further modifications to the zone. So just trying to always think ahead and keep energy efficiency on the top of mind.
Yeah, and capital planning is such a big piece of it. They say these are 25-year investments in renewal. It's the only time you can cost effectively make a change. Robin, talk about the organizational question. You saw the ladder of success there. Which parts of that do you think Confederation's been particularly good at?
Well, thank you, Ian. Happy to speak today. The part, so I arrived at the college 4 years ago, and my VP at the time, Michelle Salo, who's now our president, gave me very clear direction on where she wanted the college to be energy-wise, and the president at the time, we signed the SDG Accord, and sustainability and making our energy effectiveness and efficiency were top of mind. We knew that it's not always rosy financially for us, so we have to do everything that we can. So that direction came from the top down. So I had the support from the beginning, which it was key. You're not fighting. You're not pushing on a rope. It was pulling me along. So we've integrated that into the strategic plan. We set targets and goals, 60% reduction by 2030, net zero by 2040, and how we were going to get there. We were fortunate recipients of NRCan Smart Renewable Electrification Pathway funding, which we were enabled to get some which enabled us to hire Ryan really as an energy, focusing him on the energy manager position, doing sub-metering and a lot of education, both to our staff and opening up our systems to students. So we really took a holistic approach to the first 2 years and getting things so that we could measure it and get the good data. Previous to my arrival, there had been a lot of projects on campus done. We had solar, we had some geothermal, we had the biomass had been installed but wasn't up and running yet. The solar thermal wall. We've got a number of things on campus, but there wasn't really good metering on it. So we've done a lot of work on that to get the data. So, and having that support from senior team and the board really has enabled us and enabled Ryan to do the good work that he's doing, as well as all the facility maintenance. One of the struggles is not having, when I first arrived, was not having Ryan. So you're trying to keep the lights on and keep the buildings open and not be able to focus on the energy. And with having him here and having the support to get him here, that's been instrumental in making the steps that we have and plotting the path for the future.
You're talking about some investments in people and
Yes.
investments in equipment. What does making the business case look like? And I note that Peter Millamar, your CFO, is on the call here. So interesting side of things. Like, what does that business case process look like? What do you have to produce? How do you build confidence that this is going to have a return? Like, how does that work at Confederation?
So what we did as part of the NRCan project was we did a full energy audit on the campus by a third party, basically looking at all the aspects of the building envelope to heating systems to our electrification, what we had already, pulling that all together and coming together with a greenhouse reduction action plan. So we use that as the baseline, baseline 2008. And from that, we got a list of projects together that we would want to consider with potential paybacks. Once we had that, we moved forward with an investment grade energy study, and came up basically, I think, about 5 to 8 projects, depending how you break them up, projects that we want to move forward to that are going to get us to our 2030 goal. So it took some time and some reiterations, and then, how are we going to fund it and the return on investment? There was a lot of back and forth, which basically took us a good 2 years to get to the point where we are today. Peter, I don't know if you want to comment.
Yeah, and I'll jump in a bit. So I've been here at the college since September. My background, I was working at Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Center for 10 years. And we did a lot of projects like this when I was there. So I came with that background of, not just hearing about this in theory, but I saw it in action and it works, right? So there's that benefit. So when Ryan and Robin come and talk to me, immediately I support it. When I bring it to the board for approval, the board has two, they have a number of roles, but a couple of them is financial stewardship and social stewardship. And this meets both of those, right? So it's very easy to bring to the board, not presented as here's how much we have to spend, but instead it's here's how much we have to invest. So we're investing in Ryan Sauer. We're investing over the next 2 years in about, Robin, $10 to $12 million worth of projects. But the annual savings that we're going to see is over $1 million a year in energy savings. So it's an investment, and the useful life of the equipment is 20 to 25 years. If the useful life of the equipment is 10 years and the payback's 10 years, it's a break-even game. But it's not in our case. So it's a very easy sell to the board, and Robin and Ryan do a great job of putting that together. So that's one piece. And the other piece is just, I'm going to embarrass Ryan here, but he's a genius, right? Like even without us doing any of these upgrades yet, he's been able to tweak and get every last ounce of savings that we can out of that. So, and I know colleges are in a very difficult position right now with regards to deficits going forward. And lots of pressure on where you're going to make cuts. Don't make cuts in this area. We could save easily, $200,000 a year by less people. You're going to pay for that tenfold over the next 10 years if you do. So just be very careful with the investments that you make. But yeah, great job by these guys. Yeah.
Great message. Robin, Ryan, Peter, thank you so much for sharing. And I know you're available. I'm sure there'll be some follow-up questions from people as time goes by. We look forward to staying in touch as you continue down your journey. But thanks so much for taking the time to do this today. Let's move to the next spot where we need to hear from people in a bit more structured way. So this is a very simple poll. Can we go to the next slide, please? We got kind of 2 questions for you. One is, do you have a target? Is it evidence-based? Is it kind of the order of magnitudes that we're hearing here that are realistic and work us through? Does it relate to, if you have it, what your post-secondary climate challenge target would be? And then secondly, we just want to know, what are your biggest opportunities, challenges of everything you've heard today through these 7 items here? Which are the ones ranking from 0 to 3? If they don't matter, put 0. Please do put 0 so we don't worry about them. But then 1, 2, 3, where do you go from there? Tell us which are the things that matter most, because we will design our programming to suit what you're telling us matters most to you. So the poll is up right now. Please start filling it in. And this is for the colleges, universities on the calls. Industry you'll see the results in just a moment, but don't fill this in for you. But colleges, universities, do you have a target? And if so, what are your biggest challenges, opportunities, the things you'd like to develop most? For all the colleges, universities on this call, we're honored to have Mohawk and Humber and Niagara as our founding members. Post-secondary climate challenge, the strength comes from networking, from growing that membership. So we encourage every one of you to consider being part of this. There is a membership fee, but contact our friend Heather Bell to kind of talk about what this looks like, becoming part of this whole process. You see the benefits there. We believe this is important, which is why we keep doing it, and welcome all of you to becoming part of driving this agenda forward. And finally, the final slide. Stay in touch. This is the contact information for Heather. Natalie is our program manager who runs everything to do with the post-secondary climate challenge. Amandeep is also on the call today, but is the director of engineering. He's the technical lead and the executive lead for the post-secondary climate challenge. I'm Ian Jarvis. I'm the executive director of Climate Challenge Network. Again, thank everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today, and we hope every one of you will be joining the journey. Thank you very much and have a great day.